I borrowed a friend's fell pony and set off with my dog Finn, who I had at the time, who was my absolute soulmate. And then we set off around the lakes. You know, if you follow these little signals you get in life, I think they take you somewhere really good sometimes. I'd already done a journey that had been this magical thing, and then this journey was super hard, and for all sorts of reasons. But I do think bringing things back and doing the things that just do it for fun, you know, like go for a picnic with your horse, like 100%.
Hello, happy Wednesday.
Hello, how you doing?
Stop.
It's fine.
We've recorded this intro like 4 times. We're doing it again because, yeah, it's like starting a play. Like, even though we chat to each other, I'm like, hi. And then Miri's like, there's not enough gap for me to say hi. So then I think she's not going to say it. So then I'm like, oh, just keep talking. And then she speaks. It's just absolute chaos.
Chaos. Anyway, how have you been? How are things?
Things are good. This is the last episode of season 5. Can you believe it? So for those friends listening in real time, this will be the last episode, obviously. And then we will have a short break and we will return for season 6 on the 8th of July. So mark your calendars and make sure you're following This Equestrian Life podcast on Instagram for like bits and bobs in between, as well as our own Instagram channels, which you will find in the show notes.
Mad. 50 episodes.
Yep. And we're ending the season on a bang because our guest today is just so cool.
Yeah, really cool. If you want to feel like an inspired woman, today is the day. We've got her name is Clare Dyson, and she's like an explorer. And I won't say too much because I think that's kind of it. But yeah, her and I had this lovely, cool little catch up on the phone because she was actually somebody who was recommended by our listeners as somebody who they think would be really cool. So I love that. I kind of feel like that's like a full circle moment, isn't it? Like when somebody listening feels like somebody has a cool story, like that's just a great thing. So I'm really looking forward to that. And actually, I think me and Claire know somebody in common.
Really?
So Claire lives in the Lake District now, and she rides a fell pony, I believe. Yeah. And I had this very cool experience when I was a child where I got the opportunity to ride some fell ponies from their summer grazing to their winter grazing, or the other way around. I'm not 100% sure.
That's cool.
It was so cool, and I was so small. I've got these pictures, and I was like a tiny little human with this big, I think it must have been a Champion hat. It was like one of the velvet ones.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what it was like? Do you know what the hat was like? It was like that hat that you had for far too long.
Yeah. My audience still, so for context, everybody, when I started riding again, I just went to a local tack shop and I bought myself like a velvet Champion hat because that's sort of all they had. This is before I worked with Champion or anything. And it was just like the one I'd had when I was a kid. And my audience still refer to it as the mushroom hat. And I just want to say, if you have a mushroom hat, you own that mushroom hat because they're really cute. Mary's face. They're really cute. But they do give me, now I think about that particular hat on my head, it does slightly remind me of Mario Kart. You know?
Nostalgia. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of poking fun at it, and then you made it about people who may still have that hat and need to have that hat. And I'm sorry if I've made anyone feel bad about themselves. But if you imagine, I probably weighed about 5 stone, and then I had a hat like that. So I looked like a matchstick, you know? Yeah. Like a stick with a blob on the top. So anyway, I rode these amazing ponies. There were 3, and me and this lovely lady, Hilary, was the owner of them. We rode them from one place to another. And it was like this really cool thing. We like camped with the ponies, and I don't know, it was just like a magical experience. And I'm pretty sure that's kind of how Claire lives her life. And I just can't wait to hear more about her exploraging.
I'm particularly interested in that too, because I don't know if this is a thing for you. It would be interesting to hear. But in the corporate world, I have yet to meet someone, maybe like 7 out of the 10 people that I speak to have what I call a burnout fantasy, which is like, sorry, there's a bit of a motorbike in the background. So a burnout fantasy is where you're like, oh, I just like dreaming of quitting and doing X. So like someone I used to work with was like, oh, I took a weekend in this seaside town and there was this amazing art gallery. And sometimes I think maybe I'll just quit and like run an art gallery. For some people, it's coffee shop, bakery, stuff that's like more connected to your hands and craft is quite often the thing. So like stepping away from computers and digital kind of careers, and obviously because I work in marketing, I think that's quite common. There was actually a couple of YouTube videos of a guy who was made redundant from the recent Meta layoffs, and he just went and worked in a local butcher's and then did some volunteering in his community, and he was like, I'm so much happier, which I'm sure is easy to say when you've had a big old payout from Meta, but I think there's something in this, and she gives me burnout fantasy vibes.
It's really interesting that those people evidently have never burnt out. Because I wouldn't wish that on their absolute worst enemy. I get it. I get the kind of the play on words, but no, don't wish burnout on people. It's like awful. It's like you think your world's blowing up. But it is interesting, isn't it?
Word.
Yeah, it needs a different word. It's like, well, you know what it is actually? It's like actually living within your like purpose, like, or like living in alignment with yourself is probably what it is that they are actually fantasizing about.
Sorry, I actually did some Googling of this a while ago because I was like, what is this specific type of like escapist fantasy? And what came up was misalignment burnout. So it's not burnout where you're like, the burnout that you had, which was like energy and everything fell apart. It's burnout that's like, little by little you get further and further away from your purpose and your ethics and what's important to you, and so you end up in this fantasy place, or you just quit altogether.
Well, yeah, and people do end up blowing up their lives, and like there's a really high rate of divorce and stuff of people in their 50s because they're like, oh my god, this is all not good at all. So yeah, very interesting and super kind of, I think she also leads these like wildness retreats for women, which is really cool.
They're called the Women's Adventure Academy. It launched in April. So you like go away with her for the weekend and a group of women, and you walk and you learn to do all these specific skills, and you wild camp. I think you wild camp. And it's just it looks really cool. We'll share all of this with her, and I'm sure she has a better explanation, but it's very cool.
And when you know, that sounds kind of cool, right? Like, yeah, cool, adventuring. But I think it's a lot for people who have really lost themselves. You know, like people who have ended up in burnout fantasy or whatever it might be, but they've got no idea what to do with themselves. And I'm so interested to hear about people finding themselves through nature. And honestly, this is the thing I want to talk about as my like roundup, is like I could literally cry when I tell you, I feel genuinely emotional about it at the moment, how empowered and excited and amazing. I'm also day 1 of 2 of my period, so it might have something to do with it. About nature, about like nurturing the nature that is around me. Like I have this amazing place, and that conversation last week with Rena. If you haven't listened to it, please go and listen to it. I feel like there's this opportunity, and I was literally just on my phone before we came on. I was eating my lunch and I watched something from a company called Groundswell Films, and there's a documentary coming out on Prime, and it is about regenerative farming. So you've got one hand, you've got NEP, which is doing all of this amazing rewilding, and then you've got this kind of different shift. There's now 250 million acres, I wrote it down, worldwide, that are starting to adopt regenerative farming practices.
That's cool.
And I'm like, oh my god, like these people are saying the most amazing things. They've got these amazing voices doing the voiceover for it. They've got I've forgotten, really famous people, and they are like talking about how, yes, you can feed the earth regeneratively. You don't need to do things in this mass way. We have to eat differently, yes, but it's like, and I just feel so empowered and passionate and excited, and I'm going to go and try and visit Groundswell myself in the UK. It's in July. And if you're interested in this, you can go and buy a ticket and go and join and see what they're talking about. If you're a farmer and you're listening and you're thinking, oh my God, all of what they've been talking about sounds really interesting, please go and look these things up, because, and I'll put them in the show notes, because it's just, this is so important. Like, we're at this, like, seriously, I don't want to scare anyone, but like, we are in serious crisis with the climate. Like, there is no question about it. And I'm experiencing it firsthand. I have complete control over the land that I'm managing, and the managing of it in a usual farmed way via horses, i.e. grazed paddocks. It's not working. The grass is not managing, because we haven't had the rain that we should have had in the spring. And I'm going to have to change the way I do things. And I will be sharing that whole process with everybody as I do it. But I feel scared of the climate and the changes that we've seen and the lack of hay that we're going to have, because the irony of it is we've got less hay to cut because we've had less grass grow. And then we need more hay
because there's less grass. Yeah.
Because there's less grass. Yeah. And Mark, Old Manor Farm Mark, he is a huge hay supplier in the southeast, my area. And he said that he is already seeing a 15% less yield. And we had less rain this spring than we had last spring. So prepare to pay more for your hay, be organised about it, start being organised to pay a bit more for your livery, because if your livery yards aren't charging you more, they are paying the price.
Yeah.
I feel really emotional about it, because I feel like there is things that we can do. I feel actually positive. Like, we can't stop the wheels in motion with climate change. It is happening, unfortunately. We can't control what the big wigs are doing, that are, the huge industry. We can look after the land that we are the stewards of, and I feel very passionate and excited about that.
Question for you. This is quite a hard question, but it's something I ponder sometimes. Do you ever, and you're one of the most passionate people about the climate that I know, so I feel like I can ask you this and get an interesting answer. Do you ever get to the point sometimes where you're thinking about this, where you're like, horses are making this worse, and like, actually the thing that I love, my hobby, my livelihood, is like actively making it worse? Because Nep was talking about that, right? They were like, the way that we traditionally keep horses isn't good for the land, but there are different ways to do it, blah 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 blah. And I just thought about it. I was like, because we all know that it's not a very sustainable industry, but I was like, is there going to come a point where it's like, you just can't have these huge herbivores with this land because there's not enough of it?
Well, I just think we all need to learn how to keep them differently, because actually, I do think, I hope, it remains a sustainable thing. And I guess if it really got to the point where we just didn't have hay, then I suppose that would be the point where no, it would no longer be sustainable.
Well, there's lots of other countries that don't have grass though, and they seem to manage with other things like straw and things. So I don't know. I mean, I'm also playing devil's advocate, because like, of course I don't want to give up my horse. Like, I'm just pulling on the thread, No,
and I think that I think it is important to understand how like close to the wire we are in a lot of ways. But then I think the conversation that Rena and I had was very encouraging towards, actually there are things we can do differently to improve this, and that it's like the Westgate conversation, right? We have this serious wormer resistance issue in the UK right now, and what that means is we've used wormers too much, so now they're not as effective, basically. And so what we need to do is we need to stop using them so much in such an untargeted way, and we can pull it back. And the professionals, the scientists, the people that are at the top understanding about it are the ones who are telling us what to do, and they're the people that we need to listen to. So it's people like Nep, it's people like these groundswell people who are seeing it happen all over the world. We've got to listen to the people that are striding ahead. And I hope in this opportunity I have with this land, I've got about 20 acres here, I hope that I can become one of those people that people can look to and say, well, they did it differently,
Other question for you. This is a follow-on from the Nep episode, so if you haven't listened to that, this might not make sense. Did you go and cut some willow for the horses?
Yeah.
Did you?
I did. Yeah.
Were they really excited?
that very same day. There was none left the next day.
Oh.
It was so cool. Yeah, and it was a really lovely thing to do. I like got a wheelbarrow and my pair of big loppers, and I went to the willow tree and I said, "Thank you so much, willow tree. I'm going to take some now." And I took some big chunks so that I wasn't like pulling tiny little strands. And it's interesting because there's a willow tree that hangs over into one of the other fields. When you go to it, you can see like all of all they've just been and taken all the leaves off the little bits. And I've been doing a lot of hacking actually, and the nature around us is so lovely. Like we have got a lot of farmed fields, but then we have these beautiful bridle paths that have so many like really old hedges, and there's such a diversity of plants. I'm like, okay, now we're all going to stop and we're going to eat. And then we just stop and they eat and then we carry on. And it's, learning about the diversity of a horse's gut and the necessity for plant diversity for health has been so huge. And one thing that stuck out for me in that episode with Rena was she talked about how we feed like livestock, right? And the thing that stuck out for me was she said,
why?
Yes, she said we feed cows for the end product.
Yeah.
Right? Milk or meat. Okay, I'm just going to use cows but the reason I use cows is because there's a lot of crossover between what goes into cow food and horse food. So, for example, I've been talking to people about it as wheat feed. There's often wheat feed in your horse's feed. You'll see it quite commonly at the top of the list. And if it's at the top of the list of the ingredients, it means it's often the highest volume of the highest percentage.
Highest percentage, yeah.
Wheat feed, as far as I'm aware, is you take the wheat, you thresh the wheat part out, the part that you're going to eat to grind for flour, and then what's left, that is wheat feed. So it's essentially the rubbish, the kind of the chaffy kind of stuff. And often the reason that we feed these byproducts to animals like cows is because it gives high yield, high fat content, not wheat feed specifically actually, but the things that we feed to cows, all of these kind of byproducts, the soy hulls, the soya itself, they are to create a fatter animal or an animal that produces more milk. Now, I don't know about you. I haven't ever particularly wanted a very fat horse that produces milk. And the thing is, the reality is the care of that animal isn't that important. I don't mean care, but like the health and longevity of that animal isn't that important because it's there to serve a secondary purpose of the meat or the milk. Our horses, we 100% care about the health of that animal. And that is why we must feed them this species appropriate diet, this plant diverse diet, not don't feed your horse like a cow. You can clip that one up if you like, because they're not designed like them. They don't have the same digestive system in any way, shape or form. It's just really interesting, and I feel so enlivened by this conversation. I'm like, what can we do? How do we help? We can do better. We can have healthier horses. And I have been feeding my horses in this very simplified way for quite a while now. I was doing it for a few months before I moved, and since it's stayed that same way. And my horses do look great. They are doing really well, and they eat the tiniest amount of feed, like literally 150 grams of feed.
I can totally see in the future, like you collaborating with a feed company or like, I don't know, whatever, and having like the Miri Hackett, simple, blah, blah, blah. Or like, because I was like, oh, I can imagine her having her own, and then I was like, maybe that's a bit much. Collaborate. But I can see you just being like, this is all the stuff I've learned, or even in the years in the future being like, this is everything I've learned about taking on a yard in a course kind of thing, so people can do it. I just think it's really cool. And what a privilege to be able to experiment.
What a privilege to be able to experiment. And I kind of am doing that by sharing what I learn all the time. I think sometimes I find it hard to kind of get it out there enough, and this is why this podcast is so wonderful, because I love having these kind of check-in conversations all the time. It's like this kind of And now we're going to do a check-in on how Harley Boy is doing, because that's your theme, that's your thread to talk about.
Yeah. Well, also this week, just to talk about that, Nikki Penny, who's been on the podcast before, the mindset coach, myself and Emily Dobson, who is EMD Eventing on social media, we are both supported riders of hers, and we helped her to film a second part to the Supercharger Riding Mindset course, and it was really, really fun. I haven't really spoken to Emily before, and we're at very like different stages. Like, she's just had a baby, she events, she's been to badminton grassroots before, she's had multiple horses, so like it was really interesting kind of going through all the modules, and Nikki would kind of explain how the brain works with something, and then she would kind of call on on Emily and I for examples of when that's shown up for us. And it was really cool. Like, it was really cool to kind of look back at some of the stuff that I struggled with and realise how far I've come, but also to hear Emily's perspective, because you think of like, oh, they're such a good rider, blah, 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 blah. They wouldn't struggle with the same things I do, but they do. And that's really cool. So that's coming out soon. Maybe I'll link it when it does come out. But otherwise, it's Nikki Penny Coaching. You can go and find her on social. So that was fun. Harley's good. So last time we chatted, the physio had come back. I don't know if I'd given the update. So she came back and she was really happy. She was like 90% there. Do 50. Oh yeah, because you were like, oh, it's weird that you say 50% riding, 50% in hand, because I do that anyway. So he's been feeling really good. I rode him in the school for the first time the other day, and we did mostly walk, to be honest, but he just felt really like jolly, and like when we did have a little trot, he was like really, oh, let me show you, I feel really good. So that was nice. But I'm just in a really sort of fun place with him. I don't know if it's the weather, I don't know what it is, but all I want to do is like go riding bareback, which I'm not going to do because I have not prepared for it, but literally all I want to do is like go wandering and like walk a bit and then get back on and then go for a coffee somewhere and like just wander about. Like, that's literally all I want to do, and I just love it. I actually planned to go to a local pub because they used to have like coffee and pastries from like 9:30, and it's quite warm at the moment, so I wanted to get there and back. But now they open at 11, which I'm really sad about, because I was going to wander down there. It's like almost all bridle way, and then there's a bit of road at the very end. And I was like, oh yeah, we'll go do that, and then I can walk a bit. And I thought, yeah, we're just having a lot of fun at the moment.
It's getting cooler. You'll be fine.
Yeah,
You could
maybe.
go at 11.
Maybe.
Yeah, that would be such a nice thing to do. I wish we were neighbours. We could tootle along together, couldn't
Oh,
we?
no, I can't wait to come visit. It'd be a really nice weekend.
Yeah, it would be so nice.
Yeah.
I've also been I've been hacking just in a rope halter with reins. Don't call the police, everyone. I don't have to go really on any roads, so you're not really meant to. Well, because you're not meant to do it on a road, and I do have to cross a couple of roads. No, I'm going to have a bridle on. Anyway, shh, no one knows. Okay. I feel like a cowgirl. I'm like, I have these rope reins that I clip on, and I'm like there just like, riding around a field, having a lovely time. I would still wear a proper hat. I don't put a cowboy hat on because I don't totally understand how that's a thing, but that's what I've been doing a lot of that. So I totally feel you on the just like tootling around thing. Like, it's just tootle about, sure thing. Yeah. No one's paying me to ride my own horses. I don't need to sell them. I don't have any great aspirations to go to the Olympics. Just do whatever feels good.
Exactly. Yeah. Just love it. So that's fun. Miri and I are both going to the bridleless competition. So if you remember the episode with Mia Rodley, she talked about how she's hosting the UK's first ever bridleless competition, dressage and show jumping. It's at Merris Wood this Sunday, so it will have happened by the time this episode comes out. But Miri and I are both going to volunteer our time. Miri's going to judge. What are you judging, the dressage or the jumping?
The jumping.
Suppose you don't judge. Oh, you do? Are you just there to like check? I feel like
no,
you're doing now. But...
No, it's style and performance.
Oh, so how does that work?
So you have a certain amount of time to complete the course, so you can't just like start, walk, pick back up again. You have to kind of like, but that wouldn't be marked. That wouldn't be great anyway, because you're judging things like rhythm, consistency, steering, harmony, fences left up, stopping, running out, like how evidently noisy the rider has to be, like how much the rider has to do. So it hadn't really been like planned, and I said, oh, why don't we do it as style of performance? Like, I'd love to help, I'd love to be a judge. And Mia was like, yes, this is a great idea, because they were essentially going to be doing it just on clear rounds, I believe. I don't know, actually. I just don't think that part of the planning had taken place at that point. And so anyway, British show jumping have like a 4-year-old class, which is judged on style and performance. So they're not judged against the clock. So essentially, short, fairly simplistic course is completed. And we will, if they go way over the time like that they are allowed, then they would gain a penalty for that. You would gain a small penalty for knocking a jump down. But the important thing with the British bridleless, and I'm part of this like judges group, the WhatsApp group, it's so cool to be a part of this, because it's really trying to find a balance in a new way with like how we want competition to feel. And there was this great conversation that was going on today, because I said I would be conscious of, like, if somebody had 4 faults because they were riding a not very athletic horse, but their harmony was so incredible and the smoothness, but then there was somebody who jumped a clear round, but it was not harmonious, and but the horse was maybe a bit more careful, which person should be rewarded? And this just opened this very interesting conversation between everybody, because they've got a normal dressage judge, and then I believe somebody who is very bridleless trained being a judge. And so it's like this balance, like, what are we actually aiming for? Yeah. And there was this interesting conversation today where it was like, often you could watch 2 dressage tests of one upright, very flashy horse that looks quite tense and tight, but it's really throwing its body around. And they would probably do better than the soft kind of...
Because of the criteria. Yeah.
Right. And it's like, okay, so what do we want our criteria to be?
This is so cool.
And it's so cool to be a part of, and I feel so lucky. And I think we're going to have an amazing day, because it's all day on Sunday and I'm not judging at all till the afternoon. So you and I will just be there.
Well, I think I'm going to maybe look after a warm-up arena, or to be honest, I'm just going to arrive and be like, where am I helpful? And I'm going to try and vlog it a bit. I know Horse and Country are covering it, so you can watch it there if you're not nearby or you're in the US or somewhere else. So, yeah, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, I'm going to vlog it too. So we're going to end up, all of it will end up on YouTube too. So, yeah, it's going to be great. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. Great to be part of something so future forward thinking. It's not English, but there we go.
Speaking of YouTube, actually, my first pony camp vlog went live today. As in, it will have gone live for a few days since when you listen to this, but there's 3, there's 1 for each day, and it was like going back the second year, and it was really fun, and I got to vlog a lot of it because my group were really cool and just weren't worried about me filming, and everyone was really cool about it. So go watch that, because it was really fun. Come join us at camp. Yeah.
Love that.
Well, I think it's about time that we shimmied on over to the Lake District to join Claire for all of her stories. So if you don't yet have a drink or a beverage, this is a good time to get one, because I feel like this is going to be a really good conversation.
We're going to take a moment to talk about the sponsor of this episode, the Hoof School. Now, the Hoof School have supported a lot of this season, and we are very grateful to them for not only supporting the podcast, but for the opportunity of learning that we have both had. I, in fact, performed a trim this week for Blondie, myself, and clapping, and all of the information that I learned on the Hoof School helped me so much. Blondie is complicated to see the farrier and or the trimmer, and so I have taken it upon myself to get educated and understand what it is that I'm looking at, and I just felt so empowered to be able to do that. She was super grateful. I did it totally loose in her stable, which really suits her but isn't very easy if somebody doesn't know her super well, so it really just makes sense for me to learn how to trim her and to do it myself. I in fact actually have a little knife that I use for taking the bars out, and it broke while I was trimming her foot because her feet are so hard. So I'm learning all of these different things about anatomy of the hoof, shape of the foot, balance, and just being able to do that between my trimmer visits it's just been a brilliant thing, and I can't recommend it highly enough to anybody that might be interested in learning about their horse's hooves.
Yeah, I agree. And I think you and I are at very different ends of the spectrum when it comes to barefoot. Like I've always said, I'm barefoot curious, but my horse is shod all round. And I have found it really challenging trying to learn about barefoot online, because often spaces are very, very noisy. They're very purist. It's just a lot, and it feels like very intense, and like it makes me just want to be like, okay, well, that's just not for me. And so finding a place where I could learn on my own, in depth, step by step, without all that noise has been invaluable, I think, in my experience. And being able to then go and like test that out and look at my own horse's hooves without the pressure of like getting it right or being watched or like doing all the things, like it's been really helpful. So yeah, it's been a good season with the Hoof School. So if you want to explore barefoot, if you're barefoot curious yourself, or you want to increase your knowledge, then you can get 10% off the first 2 courses on the Hoof School with the code TEL10. We'll link to it in the show notes as well. But yeah, let us know if you do and what you learn. Back to the podcast.
Welcome, Claire, to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. It's such a pleasure to have you. How are you doing today?
Yeah, really good, thank you. Yeah, busy, but good. Yeah, good. It's really nice to be here. I'm a little nervous, but it's lovely to be here.
Don't be nervous.
Thanks for having me.
It's just us. No need to be nervous.
and also we can still be nervous and do all the things that we want to do, as I have had to learn in life.
You're so wise.
Maybe a good place to start. Claire, can you tell us a bit about yourself? Why have we invited you on our podcast today? Tell us a bit about your story.
It's such a good question. I have a pony. I suppose that's a good start. And he's called Merry. He's a Welsh cob, and I got him about 4 years ago, and he is lovely. And the thing that we do together is we do some journeying. So I've done a few journeys. I live in the Lake District, and I live in Kendal, just on the edge of the lakes. And then Merry lives, it's a nice place actually. It was good. And then Merry, my pony, lives on my friend's beautiful farm in the Lake District, right in the heart of the lakes. And I grew up horse riding, but just really on shoestring sort of stuff in the Chiltern Hills, so in Buckinghamshire. And then I guess I came back to horse riding about after a 20-year gap. So this is me coming back to horse riding. And but it was through a journey that I did on horseback around the lakes, which was I can tell you a bit about. But basically, the thing I love to do is just being out. Just riding out and camping and traveling with my horse as often as I can, which is not all the time. I don't live like this dream life. I work, and I'm a gardener, and I run an event for a brand called Fjallraven, which is a 3-day trekking event in the Lake District, and work on a few projects with them. But it's all my work involves getting. It's sort of, I feel like I walk a line between people and nature, and it's really, I'm a mountain leader, and I've grown up connected to the outdoors, all my life really, from the back garden at home through to now being able to navigate in some pretty wild places through it with my work and hobbies and stuff. But so that my work is always outside generally. The odd spreadsheet here and there, which I try and avoid. I'm not very good at that sort of thing. So I'm in the lakes, and whenever I can, I do get out with Merry and do some, get out camping. And we've just come back a week ago from a sort of a circular route around the Cairngorm Mountains up in sort of north east Scotland, which was 6 days out wild camping. With my boyfriend and our dogs, and Moose and Tang and Merry as a pack pony. So we've only got one horse between us. So we and Merry is I just got this brilliant sort of Canadian pack saddle set up from Canada, obviously, and so I just got that shipped over. With a friend, because it's quite expensive kit, so we were like, let's go halves, because we're not going to be using it every other day or anything. So we share that, and it just meant we could pack all our sleeping stuff and our tent and roll mat and all, and all our food and everything and the dog's food into those bags on Merry. We took our own bags as well, just smaller ones, because he was carrying a lot of the stuff, and then just went off for 6 days into, and it was really wild actually. We were in some brilliant glens and went over some mountain passes and stuff like that. But it's it's not a race around. I'm very slow in everything that I do, and I love slow adventures, what I love. So you have time to sort of take it all in as you go, really. So that's what I do. A bit of a long-winded answer, but yeah. And other journeys I've done have been in the Lake District, so that's a bit. Maybe that's why I'm here.
Yeah, that is so magical. I've got so many questions already, and I'm painting such a picture in my mind of your journeys. But you spoke about returning to riding after a 20-year break, which I think is actually very common with people, particularly during their teenage years, to step away. And you said there was one trek that you did when you came back, and that's what kind of set you on this path. So can you tell us about that, and what was your level of knowledge then, before you obviously now you're like a pro at wild camping and things, but tell us about that ride.
I'm a massive pro, and so how did I get? So when I rode when I was younger, which was in the Chilterns, not far from you, Miri, I don't think. So in the Wendover Woods and around there. I used to love that. And we had this brilliant cross-country course just on the edge of the RAF base where I was at this RAF Holton Saddle Club. And that's where I sort of did the majority of my riding and discovered map reading, and was like just desperate to get on. I was a bit of a loner, really. I loved just going out on my own I had this little skewbald pony called Sally, and we just go and muck about. It was great. And then we had this cross country course on the edge of where we were, which we could just use all the time. So we were always bombing around and just having a lot of fun, really, riding bareback. But one of the things that really I had a lovely, I only ever had horses on loan, but I had a really lovely mare called Lucy, who was a Cleveland Bay cross thoroughbred, and she had some crazy behaviour, but we really bonded, and we used to go much further afield because she was like 15 odd hands, and she was really strong and fit. So and by then I was really wanting to explore further afield on horseback. And so that was always in me. Like, I don't know, the outdoors is a place of like total freedom for me. And I just absolutely love it. So it was just kind of a natural progression thing that I wanted to do that. And I remember being out in the woods, which was over in Dunsmore, which is like by Coombe Hill. And I remember being over that way, and I was going through this gorgeous like beech woodland and going up this bridleway that's like just by the Ridgeway, so really ancient sort of tracks around there, and which I love as well. And there was this gorgeous grassy glade, and I was like, God, I remember the exact point. I could take you there now, even though I haven't been there in like probably 30 years. But like, it's that grassy glade in the woods. I was like, wouldn't it be amazing to just put up a tent, stay there with the dog and my horse, and then go on to like, I don't know, Princess Risborough or further down the Ridgeway the next day, and then just keep going. And it was just was a seed in my head that I was like, God, I'd love to do that. So anyway, and not have to go back to the stables every night. So anyway, that sort of like that the horse was, that my horse riding days came to a bit of an end because for various reasons, including uni, and like you say, it just is quite a normal thing. And then I did a bit of horse riding here and there, but it's never quite the same when you've had the autonomy of riding your own horse. And that sounds really like, a bit princessy, but it's just, it was just so freeing, I think. So I didn't do much, but then I went traveling when I was 26, and we went overland. Me and my partner went overland to Mongolia. So we were on bikes and trains and buses, and then the Trans-Siberian Trans-Mongolian down into Mongolia. Because it was another real heart thing that I was like, I just desperately wanted to go to Mongolia to ride and be amongst those, that horse culture, nomadic life, and that really inspired me. And so I was just like, so anyway, we managed to pull it off, and we got like a train ride from Moscow to Mongolia for like 70 quid. So it was it was all, again, it wasn't fancy, but it was all like a brilliant adventure. And then we did 3 different expeditions with Mongolian guides, just like a local guy who'd just take us out. And so we did. And then I was like, God, why doesn't anyone do this at home, like in the UK? There's much more a culture in other countries like the States or like Australia, potentially a bit more, but over here it's just, even in the Alps there's probably more that sort of thing, but here it's much more about different disciplines that are around sort of show jumping, dressage, cross country, etc. So, or driving, and so anyway, I was 26, and then when I was and I've been working with young people in the outdoors for years. Sorry, it's a bit of a convoluted, but there's nice little elements, I think, that it's a kind of a bit of a thing where, if you follow these little signals you get in life, I think they take you somewhere really good sometimes. And I was working with young people in the outdoors to build their confidence and work with them on their sort of self-esteem and where they're going in life. And this one lad that I worked with, who, I'm still in touch with now, he's like 30 now. He was about 16 at the time, I think. But he was like, he said, Claire, you do all this work with us lot, but what would you really like to do? And I was like, oh, yeah, that's a really good point. Because you're always asking people, what do you really want to do? What really lights your fire? And so I was like, do you know what? I'd absolutely love to ride around a Lake District on horseback. And he was like, well, you should bloody do it. Well, he was ruder than that, but he was like, he gave me a kick in the pants, basically. And so that was in, I don't know, around 2016, I think. And then, and he really made me say it out loud, I think. And sometimes that really helps. And then a couple of other things happened that really made me kind of go, actually, I do really want to do this. And it was a really nice combination. So I have a qualification called the Mountain Leader qualification, which means I can take people out in the hills, in the mountains, and, camping and, and doing all that stuff, which was a great qualification to get when I came up to the lakes. And with the work I was doing, but it was like this beautiful overlap of all the horse riding and my love of horses and traveling on horseback, and then like being in my own territory in the UK, in the mountains where I lived. And I've been up here 20 years, so I was sort of living in the lakes by then. So it was just kind of things just kind of came together. And then I set a date, and I always think, like, if you really want to do something, set a date, because if you don't, it just goes on, doesn't it? And you never quite get around to it. So I said, right, May is the best month ever. So in the year, it's my favourite month, so I'm going to go. And so May 2018, I borrowed a friend's fell pony, that's a whole other story, and set off with my dog Finn, who I had at the time, who was my absolute soulmate. And then we set off around the lakes, but there was a lot of preparation to do, and obviously it's not as simple as that, but things kind of, I was just quite lucky. But I was really like, I was lucky, but I think you have to go out and meet luck halfway. You can't just be like, oh, just wait till I'm lucky. It's like you've got to go, and you've got to kind of put yourself out there and go, I need to go and get lucky, actually. So I'm going to go and see if I can find a horse. And I didn't have a horse. I didn't know anyone with horses at the time. My whole horse world had been down in the Chilterns. So it was really, and I spent this whole month of May with Pan, same as your kitten's name, and then we did a circular route, and we literally left on the 1st of May and came back on the 31st, and it was, I think, hands down, sorry, it's so nauseating, isn't it? But it was the best month of my life. I was so sad to finish. I just did not want, I could have carried on indefinitely. And it was a magical month. We had really good weather for the Lake District. It's quite unusual. It's currently peeing with rain outside, and that's the lakes a bit for you. But we just had like amazing weather. We met amazing people and farmers and people, and we taught the guy who owned the pony and myself sort of taught Pansy how to be on a tether, and that was that was going to be one of my questions. Yeah. People are like, does the horse just stay with you? But so we had to learn all that stuff. But yeah, tethering is, if you do it well and you do it right, and you have all you can, and you do enough training with it, the horses are amazing on tethers. And I know it's controversial because you see people doing it very badly, but I won't go into the details, but there is a way of doing it really safely and also with the right horse as well. So yeah. But yeah, it was it was amazing. It was a really great trip. So, and we ended up going over Helvellyn at one point as well, which is like one of the highest mountains in England, which wasn't really, it didn't matter to me whether we went over this huge mountain or not. It was really just about the journey, but it was really cool. And Pansy, being a fell pony as well, she was just whinnying every new valley we went into. She was just whinnying to see who was around, and she really she's very connected. She was like a semi-feral pony. And like my dog was a collie, and like really outdoorsy, thought he was a wolf, and then I was just in my element. So, and then you just become this amazing weird. You're not a herd, you're not a pack, and you're not a tribe. I don't know what you are, but you're like dog, horse, person, and it's quite a special thing. Yeah.
Maybe a conglomerate of souls.
Yes. So it was so that journey was really kicked me off into then being like, I think I'd like to do more of this, obviously. And then I got merry, and we're doing a bit more.
And with that journey, did you there's obviously, life is a journey as such, and obviously you go through hard times and good times and ups and downs and all the rest of it. And
sure.
Do you find with experiences like that where you go, people always say like find yourself, someone says, I'm going to go traveling, I'm going to find myself, do you, can you comment on that on that sort of wording? Like, is that what we need to do? Do we all need to go and spend a month in the wilderness with a dog and a horse?
Yes.
and find ourselves? Okay. Oh, right.
No,
I'm ready. I'm sold.
I don't.
I'm going to pack my bag.
I think, just a month. It's all right. It's all you need. You'll be totally found by then. No, I think traveling always does us good. As in, you step out of your own bubble. To step out of that and into a different mode of being that is much simpler, I think, strips us away from a lot of the, I'm going to call it, guff in our lives. And I think that is really, there's a lot of, especially now, even more so now with phones and all that stuff. I think there's something so important in for me, and I'm really biased towards the outdoors, and it's what I do, it's the community I live in, it's the culture I'm fully engaged in. And I know there's other views on things, but I do think that when we go and really simplify our lives by going out in that way, that we, it strips us down a bit. And I always say that it takes about we have a saying about things being 3 days deep. So when you step away and go on a hike, with or without a horse, it makes no difference. Well, it's different, but like you can just go pack a rucksack if and do a journey, whether it doesn't matter if it's along canal paths or whether it's in the mountains, but to do a journey, I think it takes 3 days for the modern world to really slip off your shoulders and for you to feel like you're in a groove, you're in a different mode of being. And it's always like around the third or fourth day, and we totally experienced this on the trip that I did last week in the Cairngorms. It was about day 3 or 4 where it was like, you've got this really simple routine, and your phone's off, and you can hear yourself more clearly. And I think there's so much to distract ourselves, let alone if you've got ADHD and all those other things that, I totally hands up and that way out, and super distracted by my phone constantly, and I hate it. But when you make the space to step out of that, I do think that you're confronted with yourself, whether you find yourself, because you could go on a journey like that, listen to podcasts the whole time, you could listen to music the whole way round, or just constantly. But if you really do strip yourself back a bit, I think you've got a good chance of hearing more about what's in your heart and what's in your, what's underneath all the guff. And so I don't know. Yeah, I think it depends on the individual, but you're giving yourself a good chance, I think, if you do get out in that way. It's more complex than that, but I think in its simplest form. Yeah.
I love this so much, and I'm trying to get a sense of your journeys and like what your evenings look like, because we were talking before we started recording about the film Wild, which has Reese Witherspoon in it, and she walks the PCT in the US. PCT, yeah, and she takes books with her, so she kind of trades books in at every checkpoint. And you talked about having your phone off. So what do your evenings look like when you do these journeys with your horse and your dog? Do you write? Do you read? Do you just sit and exist and watch the animals? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, I just hug trees like the whole time I'm out. I don't do that.
She's joking.
I mean,
oh, you are joking. Okay.
People are like, you're just one of those tree huggers.
I definitely do.
No, I'm not.
I mean, I do enjoy. I love hugging a tree. I love hugging a tree. Please,
I know.
Be with me, tree. Sorry, we digress. Keep going, Claire.
No, it's good. No, evenings. So I always think when you're out in that way, the evening, the more early morning. Well, I'm not that early a riser. I really wish I was. But mornings and evenings are like magic time in the hills or outside, because the light is different. Things are quieter. The birds might be singing more, but like life is. I don't know. It's a very still time, and so I think, what do I do in the evening? Sometimes I have a book, or I don't know, like, you're cooking food, you're making your little home nice in your tent. Sometimes on that ride I would go and explore just in the sort of like, go up a little hillside nearby and just look out. Sometimes you're in your tent because last week in the Cairngorms it was absolutely terrible weather on a few of the nights. We woke up to sleet and snow, and we had sleet and snow. So sometimes you are hunkered down in a tent and just kind of getting through it. But I don't know. I think just taking it all in. And I do journal a bit as well. I actually really I don't know, I'm just really into doing like slow, gentle stuff when I'm out and about. So sometimes, and this is gonna, like, I do like just like sketching or sort of doing stuff like that. But
I love journaling.
I don't know. Yeah, it really helped. Yeah, it's great. It's really good. I kept a journal on quite a few of the trips and stuff. So that's been good.
Maybe one day they'll be published. Like, what was his name? Scott, the guy who went to the Arctic.
Yeah, that's basically me. I don't know. I would love to write more, but again, it's the sitting down and doing things I find really hard. But the doing things at a computer, for example. Just the evenings were just it's just very chilled. Sometimes it all sounds so whimsical, and I'm sort of really conscious that it could be really nauseating. But like going for a swim in a river or a lake is also really nice. Or going down, riding bareback down to the pub, leaving his tent and stuff behind, and going down to a pub for an evening and stuff or whatever. But I don't know, just doing, hanging out, having an early night. It's pretty rock and roll.
You do make a good point though, that it sounds really whimsical, and I think particularly for women who listen to this, one of the first things that I think of is like, actually, is that really safe to be out on your own in the middle of nowhere as a woman? So talk to us about that. Like, have you ever felt unsafe? Like, what do you do to make sure that you do feel safe, and those sorts of things?
I think it's a really good point. Whether you're a woman or a man, actually, I think it's really important. But probably particularly for women. I my cheat is that I kind of have to really put myself into those shoes, is that I have a dog, and I think having Moose, now I have Moose, but before having Finn, it just makes you feel really safe. They are so protective of us. Well, he is, and like I always feel that. But I remember someone messaging me whilst I was on the first journey. So yeah, my phone's not off all the time, but and she sent a message. She was like, "I'm really worried about you and your horse, and like you take real care. There's some, almost like there's some terrible people out there." And it really made me, for about 12 hours after that, I was feeling quite perturbed about it. But actually I was like, hang on a minute, she's lodged that in my head, but actually I do take a lot of care. And I know, I've got people I can call on if I got into trouble. But I think having a dog is not a reason to get a dog, but having a dog really makes me feel a lot safer. But also, if I didn't, I was going out camping, with or without a horse, I'd definitely let people know where I'm going, and just have an arrangement to check in with them at certain times. So, having things like that. You can also get gadgets that sit on your rucksack that, you can press a button and you can get help and stuff, like InReach things. So there's technology that can help us like that. And also, people can see where you are on an app or whatever. And I think those things are really good. I know of people that have been in the hills, and I've heard of things happening where they have gone wrong, and a person hasn't moved for a long time on this app, and they're like, they haven't moved for ages. So I think something's going on. So you can have safety measures in like that and stuff, which, has saved lives. So yeah, I guess, there are things you can do, but I think it's so much in our heads. So, as well as, because I would say, whenever you travel or do anything like that, the vast majority of people are so nice. Like there was so many people I met on that first journey with Pansy, in 2018, who would just bend over backwards wanting to help. And I was on my own. I didn't have a backup team or anything like that. And I was just like, but you put yourself in a world like that, and things start to happen, and people see you and what you're doing, and they're curious, but they also want to be like, can I get you anything? And it's like, oh no, I'm fine. I'm self-sufficient, and if I needed anything, I'd stop and ask a farmer, or, people on the way, if I could stay, or things like that. And then there was this one woman who I always remember, she was brilliant. I put my tent up in a field. I found this field which belonged to this lovely lady who said, oh yeah, if you want to use it, you can. So pitched up my tent, and the neighbour in that next to the field came over, and she was like, can I get you anything? And I was like, oh no, I've got everything I need. She was like, let me get you some water. And I was like, I've got loads, but thank you, it's so kind of you. And then in the end, she just she asked me so much that I was like, okay, do you know what, I'd absolutely love to wash my hair, because I hadn't washed my hair in probably through like 2 weeks by this point. So it was about halfway through, and we were up near Keswick, and she was like, oh brilliant, and she was so chuffed to help. And this is what people are like, people are so nice. And anyway, I went to her house, and she found me all her fluffiest towels and her shampoos and everything you can imagine like that. And then I had a shower, and I came down, and it felt amazing actually, because I don't know, like having dirty hair is just horrible. But and I came downstairs, and there was a glass of gin and tonic and olives on the side, and like she'd invited someone round, and it was like, so we just sat in the sunshine in her garden drinking gin and tonic. And that, that isn't. Yeah, people who are just so lovely. So, I mean, that's just one example, but there was so many on that trip and stuff. People are lovely. So yeah, it's funny. I think, yeah, it takes, I don't know, it's a certain mindset to go out and be confident that you're going to be all right. I think it comes from, I started in my camping in my back garden at home, and used to love it as a kid, and and then you sort of, I think you're just constantly pushing your stretch zone into like different areas that you're comfortable to go out to, and that can start in the back garden, and that can go, you know, for me it was the back garden and then the back field, and then I was like able to go and explore other parts of the woods, and then before I knew it I was exploring the whole of the, you know, like that area of the Chilterns. And you know, you just kind of expand your comfort zone until, you know, you're like going wider and wider places, just like you do with any of your riding or anything really, isn't it? It's just, but it's okay to start right at the start, and if that's your back garden, that's totally okay. So yeah,
I feel like,
or camp in your field with your horse.
Yeah, I feel, oh, my horse might jump out of the field if I put up a tent too quickly, but again, one would have to start small. But I just think that's such a great mindset to have. You know, sometimes the end destination can feel so overwhelming that we almost never start because we don't know where to start. So it's one of the things I talk to people about a lot is like, how many small pieces can you break the big thing down into? And it sounds like your analogy of camping in the back garden is exactly that.
Yeah.
Claire, there's something that you do now that we mentioned in our preamble before you came on about your Women's Adventure Academy. And this is exactly this, isn't it? It's about helping women. Because one of the things, well, can you tell us about it? I had something from earlier that I wanted to bring up, but I'll talk about it again at the end. But can you tell us about your Women's Adventure Academy and what it is and how people can be involved and what you've learned from doing it?
Yeah, so I've been, like I say, I've been working in the outdoors for like quite a long time, and that's been my main career. But then I started working with Fjallraven, this the outdoor brand, and they gave me the opportunity to run with a couple of other women an outdoor program just for women. And we'd ran it over 3 weekends, and this was in 2022. And me and my friend Anna Blackwell, who's really experienced expedition person as well, and she was just like, we ran this program, which was where you have 3 weekends that are about 4 weeks apart, and the same women came on each weekend, and we started really small and really easy, and then you slowly build up to going a bit further afield and a bit more sort of independently, and then till the last weekend where those women sort of ended up doing a solo camp in the mountains with our support, but were like, and they were like so that program is like, it's like a wedge, you know, you start off really small, and then just like you would with any teaching, is like you then sort of build it up. And that program was like, we had 8 brilliant women who were just wonderful, and we had from all backgrounds. We had a grandmother with us, Lucy Flowers, you know, she's a grandma, and she was there, and she was like, on the first weekend she was like, I definitely won't be solo camping on the last weekend. And on the last weekend she was the first one to go, right, see you later guys, and then she just bombed off up this little hill behind where we were, and it was just like, oh, bye Lucy. So she was brilliant, and all the others, you know, the same sort of thing really. But and we had students and people that wanted to go traveling overseas and have confidence to go and do the stuff elsewhere, and people who just wanted it to be much more part of their lives, and have the ability to not have to follow other people around in the hills or outdoors, that they could read a map themselves and navigate the outdoors themselves basically, and know what they needed in their rucksack, how to be safe, how to look after themselves, and how to, you know, wild camp and stuff. So that's what so that we ran that program, and it was one of the best things I've done work wise. And I was just like, we need to do this again. But it took me a little while to pluck up the courage. Anna's moved down south now, so and she would have loved to have done it again, but her work's taken her in other directions. So I was like, well, it's just me. And I was really, you know what it's like, you just kind of like, I don't know if I can do that on my own. But yeah, so I've just started it this year, and I'm just in the middle of running the first program on my own. So with 5 women, and so we've just had the second weekend doing loads of navigation, so that navigation skills, and people think like navigation and using maps is really old school, but it's incredibly relevant today, and it gives you the ability to just look at a big sheet of, you know, paper with all the routes on and go like, this looks interesting, I want to go this way, and then plan their own journeys or walks or bike rides or whatever. So yeah, I absolutely love it, which is, I have to sort of stop myself going. I think I've got a flyer here somewhere about it. Here it is. So that's it. And it's good fun. Yeah. So hoping to do more of that, and I would say it's like 20% skill and about I'm not very good at maths, but the rest is 80% confidence, and it's just believing that you can do it and stuff, and having some and those skills to go with it. But yeah, so it's good fun. Wow. Yeah, and I love more people to get involved in it. It's good. And I run it in the Lake District. So yeah, it's good fun.
Do you have any like, what was the feedback from those 8 women? Obviously that grandma went off and she evidently really found some confidence and she was having a wonderful time. But what are some of the things that people say to you when they have completed that? You know, or even on the course that you're running at the moment, what are some of the things that these women are coming back and saying? Because I feel like that's going to be what encourages more people to do this.
Yeah, I know. I need to get my testimonials together, actually, because people do. I know it sounds, again, it's like, I need to be more okay with people saying good things to me. But I think that, people say it's well, it's life changing. Like, it is life changing to be able to just take yourself off and do these things, because some people, like me as a kid, dream of doing these things, and then it becomes a reality. You're like, it's brilliant. So a lot of people say it's a bit of a life changer, and people can't believe that navigation is actually relatively straightforward, and what it gives you in terms of like your ability to write your own story in the hills. And do you want to hear my really inspiring saying? It's pretty good about reading maps, is that if you can read words so I hope you've got tissue nearby, but if you can read words, you can read someone else's story, but if you can read a map, you can make your own. So I do think that navigation is, and like that, being able to look at an area and go like, oh God, yeah, where should we go? And where should we camp? And I think is really exciting. But also being able to be comfortable in the outdoors is really part of it. You don't have to be uncomfortable. You don't have to be cold and wet. You can really, get out there, and it doesn't have to be up a mountain, and it doesn't have to be a race or anything. It's like bringing it back and just enjoying just being outside and stuff so yeah, I think I've digressed a bit, but I think yeah, some of the things people say is so positive, and what they have gone on to do is like, for example, Nada is now in Scotland most weekends out with friends, taking other people out as well, staying in bothies that are like in really remote parts. She did a long journey up through the Hebrides on her own. So that, that's Nada. Someone else went off to New Zealand, is doing loads of like camping and hiking stuff over on the trails there. And some people, actually Lucy, we had a lass called Lucy on that first program who she's actually, there's a film about her now, so she wanted to make a film because she's sadly losing her eyesight, so she wants to make sure she sees enough of as much of the outdoors while she has her sight as humanly possible. So she's out loads, and so there's a film called Peripheral, which is about her journey, and that started, that ability to get outside was sort of kind of was with us and stuff. So and yeah, learning how to do all those sorts of things. So Lucy's got a great story, and other people doing stuff on like bike packing and stuff. So I've yet to meet another horse rider who wants to get out and and teach them, so all that stuff. But it'd be good. You guys should come. It'd be great.
I actually think people, if you said you can bring your horse and I'll teach you how to do it, I think people would jump at the chance. The thing that keeps that I keep that really excites me is the solo part, actually. Like, I love going out on my own with my horse. I love hacking on my own. I love going to competitions on my own. Like you, when I was younger, I had lone horses. I had little Connie on loan, and I used to I grew up in the Cotswolds, so I'd just go out for hours. And I have a really visceral memory of just like walking for hours and hours. And this is before phones had like maps and stuff. And I had to call my mum at one point because I didn't know where I was. And I was like, I'm lost. And we were looking for church spires. And eventually she figured out where I was. And it was bloody miles away. She was really angry with me, actually. But I found my way home and it was fine. Yeah. But I think like women in particular, like we're taught like, I don't know, there's something really that's like, the women I talk to are like, I wish I could go out on my own. I wish I was confident enough to take my horse by myself. But I think there's something about like, oh, you're going on your own. Like, why would you not go, is it safe? And there's something actually, like you said, there's something so magical about just being with your own thoughts that is just, I just think giving people the confidence to do that is such a gift. It really is.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I really agree. But I know that I'm very much that way out. I've always liked that. I think when you, especially with horse riding as well, I find I do sometimes go out with other people, but it's very rare. It's actually quite a compliment if I go out in the outdoors with you, because I do like, I don't know, I just like the peace and quiet of it. I really, you know, like it's not like it's a bum fight, people wanting to come out with me, but like it's you can hear your own, you know, we're talking about your own thoughts and finding yourself, but you can hear your own thoughts much more, and those are just kind of like drifting around in your mind, but then you can hear your horse so much better if you're around loads of other people. And you're like, I remember like when I was at the saddle club at Holton, down when I was a kid, and like you'd go out with other people and you'd all be yapping away, but actually I just kind of, it's more distraction. And I think I find that and there's so much evidence of being around horses, particularly, you know, for certain people with certain neurodivergence or neurodistinctions, that, you know, it's so soothing for our systems and regulating our nervous systems. And like, if a horse is something that helps you regulate and you're in nature, like, God, like that's really powerful, right? And I came from, I mean, it was massive for me. I was at 13. My family was in total disarray, and my parents broke up. My mum was really ill, and we had this huge house fire. And for anyone who used to live in Aston Clinton, everyone knew about this big fire that happened, and it was our home. And so all this stuff was so chaotic. My dad had left, and bless him, I love him to bits, but you know, he wasn't really there, and all this chaos. And I virtually lived at the riding at the saddle club because it was my safe space, and being in nature is my safe space. But being in nature on a horse that you have a bond with, and maybe your dog, is like, you know. And now I see that I was totally getting regulated by it. So I was able to cope with what was going on at home and in the world and all that stuff. And I think it's still the case, you know, I have my ups and downs massively. And life is not straightforward for any of us, really. And so finding a way that you can regulate, and like I know a young person who is going through really hard time at the moment through doing exams and all this stuff. And I think, you know, she's doing horse riding lessons, but actually she doesn't do horse riding lessons with me because I'd be useless. But I don't know if flying changed from an extended trot. So that I'm not the person for that, which I totally think is amazing that people can do all that stuff. But she's learning all that stuff. But when she comes out with me and Mary, you know, we're just out and enjoying it, and she's, you know, you can see her look lighter at the end of it. And I think that's, you know, it's really, you know, sometimes if you're really stressed and then you're doing something that is really stressful with your horse, you know, it's just they're feeding off all your stress, and you know, you can really feel it. And so to get out and really relax and have fun, just like be giggling with your horse is like a great thing to, you know, isn't it? And it's really good to do all this, you know, the clever stuff as well, for sure. But I think we're really lucky. And something I've got involved with a charity recently called the Big Hoof. I don't know if you've met Louis Hall at all, who rode. He wrote a book recently. It's a very good book, and he travelled from Italy to through France into Spain and then to Portugal to Cape Finisterre on horseback. And it's a great story. He writes very well, and he and his partner, who he met on that trip, have become quite good friends. And they run a charity called the Big Hoof, which is we're just about to start a journey this week together. So it's all about raising money for mental health charities, which is a passion of theirs, which is around mental health. But so we're traveling with a few horses, a few people, and we're raising money for a mental health charity in a Lake District called Growing Well. But the really nice thing about that is you don't have to pay to come on that trip. All you have to do is raise some money for the charity. And then you can come along and enjoy being on a journey with horses. So I feel like that's a really important thing to mention here, actually, is that, there's ways, if you're frustrated or you feel like it's never, it just is, like we were saying earlier, it's like such a huge leap of imagination to be able to think about journeying on horseback, then come and join a trip, because it's like they are. And the really nice thing about that is they're accessible to all sorts of people who are on all sorts of journeys in their lives, and we come together and we travel from place to place with the horses and through the landscape, whether that's Scotland or the Lake District, and you're alongside the horses, and so you get a sense of what that journey might be like with your own horse potentially, I guess. So it's a charity quite close to my heart in lots of ways. Because it's accessible. Horses are so damn expensive, aren't they? And it makes it really elitist. Absolutely. And that's sad, because like we were saying earlier, Miri, that horses have been in our lives for thousands of years. They're old in our life, and they're old in our, with our civilization. And I think we've been around them for so long. We have a deep connection with them, and I think people are really missing out not to have horses, that they can go and even just stroke across a fence.
Definitely. We've got some footpaths that run through our land. And
nice.
I have 2 horses that I've raised from foals. Well, one of them I bred myself, and the other has been with me since she was 5 days old. And It's very interesting when people walk through the footpath. Those 2 specifically, they just go to people. They have no they've never known a hard day in their lives. One of them, Indy, she broke her shoulder when she was 18 months old, which was very sad. So she has known hardship in the sense of had to go to vets, and she is still though very. There's a pureness to her to both of them that is not you don't see it that often anymore. Often horses have a kind of preconceived idea of what humans are going to be, and I feel like you said, like horses and humans just were drawn together through. That was what we did, And I imagine you experienced that when you went to Mongolia. Those people who still live like our ancestors did, those ponies have evolved very little from the wild Pozwalski horses that would have once roamed the earth. And I imagine like that's what is that, when people say, oh, I was just drawn to horses, I wonder if it's because that's what we're designed for. We weren't designed to drive cars and have phones, computers, and all of this stuff. You said earlier, we leave behind all of this guff, and I thought, stuff, actual stuff, like
stuff,
things that we attach so much to, and that
totally.
That's huge. I'm like, God, burn my phone. Let me go and just not be with it for a period of time.
Yeah. Oh, it's so important, isn't it? Yeah. And I think, and like you say, when you go on a journey, you just have what's in your bag. And when I come back from the longer journeys, it's such a weird adjustment coming home. You're like, there's so much stuff here. Like, I'm quite minimalist, but even then, it is the stuff, isn't it? Yeah, right.
You can call it shit, Claire. It's okay. We say that word. You were
I
going to
didn't
say
check
it.
about
I knew you were
swearing.
going to. Yeah.
No, swearing's fine.
All this
Swearing's allowed.
Yeah.
And how do you find that the horses cope, Claire? Because I think we all like to imagine ourselves. We're like, oh, maybe I could do this one day. And the one thing I thought about was safety, and the second thing was, can I read a map? No. But the third was like, oh, would my horse
not
cope
yet.
being
Not
alone?
yet. Yeah.
So like, and like, so how does, because Mary, I guess, obviously he's not alone because he's with you and he's with your dog, but he's alone in the sense that he's a herd animal without his herd. So how does that work?
Yes. It's a really good question. So when I did the first journey with Pansy, I don't know, it was like she was like a bit of an old soul. She'd sort of been here before, really, and she just took to everything like a duck to water. So she was more of an anomaly than anything else. So I was just very lucky with her, and she just kind of got on with it. And she, I would say, the first couple of nights wild camping, she was definitely a bit more pacing around on her tether, and was a bit more kind of, but then very quickly sort of realised that me and Finn were her pack, and I think that does happen. Louis talks about that, and in his book a bit, and in his talks, and how he and his horse become this sort of like this human horse thing, and you become each other's main person, and so that does. So she did settle after a few days, after a day really. She was just pretty sound. Obviously we'd done a lot of training up to that point, but yeah, go on, Mary. I thought you could say something.
Yeah, do you think that you have to be okay on your own first?
Oh yeah, that's a really good point. Oh yeah,
because
for sure. Yeah,
when you were explaining about it, it makes me want to cry, because it talks to I'm just going to cry. It talks to a part of me that I know isn't really healed about being on my own. I was a chronically homesick child, like chronic, like really struggled, couldn't go to nursery straight away, like really struggled in life to be on my own. I've always struggled with travel. I find it terrifying. Yeah. And I'm here thinking like my horses, I do struggle with separation anxiety with some of my horses. And I've always questioned why that is. It comes up a lot. I mean, a lot of horses with separation anxiety, and I help a lot of horses with separation anxiety, but I still suffer with chronic separation anxiety myself. And I'm so interested as to whether the reason I keep meeting this in my life is because I've never met it within myself. And I wonder, and I'm scared to do it. I'm so scared to do it because I don't know who I'm going to meet if I truly go on my own. Yeah. And maybe this has got a bit deep, but it really spoke to me when you spoke about that. Because I thought, I fear who that inner voice is going to be. Who's she going to be? Is she going to still want to do this life that I've created for myself? Is she still going to want to have the same friends, the same people in her life, the same role, the same purpose? And I'm so scared to meet her because I don't. Yeah, and I wonder if that's why, and whether the horses don't feel truly like, complicated. I don't know.
Yeah, like
that, Claire, because
I don't have all the answers at all.
That's a lot.
But it's really interesting, isn't it? How they, like we have these mirrors with us and these horses, don't we? And I know, definitely. Yeah, really hear that. I think, I think that makes me think of loads of things, but I really hear what you're saying, and it's, it's really something for you, right? And I don't think being on your own is like the ultimate thing. I'm not going to backtrack here. I love doing that sort of stuff, and but I think that, going with other people is also really great as well. Like, you don't have to go out on your own, but I think if that is something that you could, like, if you wanted to, and it's got, you've got to want to do it. If you can't make yourself do something, like I hate certain things, like I don't know, I hate flying, but like I don't have to make myself do it. It's like, but I know, I don't know if it helps at all, but at the point where I went on that journey with Pansy, I just finished, if we're talking about mental health, which I'm really great, love talking about. I'd just done 7 years of therapy with a psychotherapist, and like I'd done sort of like, I'd been working really hard through a lot of the stuff that I mentioned before that had gone on in my life, and then and really coming to terms with some of, and there's loads of attachment stuff in that, and all sorts of things. But so yeah, really, I think I was at a point where it really felt like the right time for that journey, and I was quite not an empty vessel in a negative way, but I felt like and I'm definitely not fixed, because I've been through some really shit times since I finished therapy. It doesn't mean you're then fixed or anything, but I think I'd come to terms with a lot of stuff, I think, and maybe had faced myself, and that is, I mean, therapy is just like that. It's a really, I mean, that's a whole adventure and journey of its own, right? And I think, I don't know, so that was, maybe I was more comfortable. I think I already had a tendency, a bit like you, Ree, maybe, that like getting out on my own was something I just really enjoyed. But naturally, because I think I was that way out. But yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? How, and maybe that will, I'm certain that will help my horse to feel okay on their own. And I did I did another journey where we made a film about regenerative farming, which is on like YouTube and stuff. And I really, it was a journey to go and speak to people about nature, like on their farms, basically. So, and the reason I'm mentioning it, not to mention the farm, but like, is because a week before I went on that journey, I found out I couldn't have children. And I then went on this journey with Mary, and I should have, part of me was like, shall I cancel it? But we'd worked really hard to raise money to make this film. I really wanted to talk about how farmers were doing brilliant stuff to bring nature back and habitats onto their land. But I got on Mary with the biggest baggage ever, and we went off for a month. And I look back on that and I just think, oh, poor Mary. Like, he was carrying me, and I was so sad, and it was really hard. And it was a really hard thing to come to terms with in my life since then, but it was so raw at that point. So when I look at that film, the film's fine. It's like, but I mean, I can see my sadness in it, and I don't like watching it at all. But it wasn't about that. It was about regenerative farming. It was trying to be hopeful about, what farmers can do to create habitats on their land, as well as producing food. So it was like there was two stories going on, but one was not mentioned at all. And it was like, and I know that affected Mary. I could see it in some of his behaviour, and he was new to it as well. And I think I'd been sort of like had different expectations, because I'd already done a journey that had been this magical thing, and then this journey was super hard, and for all sorts of reasons. Partly being on a schedule, and there's so much to do when you're doing filming stuff, and it just wasn't like the relaxing, whimsical journey that I'd had previously, which was so good. And Mary was a totally different horse. He's a Welsh cob, they're a bit more fiery than a fell pony potentially, but we did it, and he obviously he was fine, but I do. Yeah, we bring so much to them, don't we, when we're there and stuff, and they reflect so much back at us. And I'm just, I'm so fascinated in that whole thing. So, yeah, maybe there's something in that, Miri.
Oh, I just keep nearly crying. Like,
she?
Just the whole time, the whole conversation. Like, I think it's just, we spend so much time thinking about, like, the dressage test and haven't got them collected enough, they're not coming through from behind, like all this stupid stuff with our horses. And to your point, you said something earlier about if you follow the little signals in your life enough, they will lead you somewhere. And like this whole conversation's just felt so nostalgic. Oh my god, I'm crying. Just like thinking about all, like how you are as a child and the things that you used to do, and like I've said to Miri for weeks that I'm like, I just want to go and have a picnic with my pony because that's what we used to do.
Yes.
And like look, not everybody has the privilege to be able to go off for a month wild camping, or the expertise and the safety aspect. But we can all for sure. We can all take the pressure off and go into nature, whether that's with a horse or not, whether that's overnight or not, and just like just back off ourselves a little bit. And I just think like there's some really magical things in this world that are so, you don't need a course. I mean, you know, we talked about a course earlier, but you don't need someone on the internet to tell you 10 things to do in your day right now, or this digital course to buy to feel a bit happier. And I just think that's really like, our world is so healing in its own way. I'm totally rambling now, but
no, you're not at all. You're really not. And I think it is, there's, you know, it's funny, isn't it? We complicate our own lives so much. Exactly. And actually, and there's joy in that as well. You know, it's fun to do things that, you know, are, I don't know. Yeah. But I do think bringing things back and doing the things that just do it for fun, you know, like go for a picnic with your horse, like 100%, and find somewhere lovely. And honestly, you start like find the best patch of grass ever, and you'll just, you know, you'll hear them snorting and enjoying themselves, and just take a load off. Life is so stressful. And I think, you know, like Ree, with your work and stuff, I imagine, well, both of you, you're both like, you know, doing so much, and I am at the moment as well. Like I totally burn myself out because I'm excited about doing all these different things. But but just to on Saturday I just went out, you know, and just go and have a lovely ride and find somewhere beautiful to go and stuff. But I do think it's just the joy of being around them. One of the favourite things I used to do as a kid was just take my pony grazing on the best grass I could find, and you know, and just listening to them chewing is like the best thing ever, you know, isn't it? And that grazing on the grass sound is just brilliant. And I really appreciate that. It's not always that straightforward to it's definitely not that straightforward to do some of the journeying, and I do feel really lucky. I guess it's kind of, you've got to follow your heart a bit, really, haven't you? But make time to hear it.
Yeah, like our evolution is not an accident. The fact that we've walked with dogs and horses for thousands of years and then we're drawn to them, that is not an accident. The fact that we get out into nature and we feel better, that is not an accident. Like, if you start scrolling on your phone and you feel a bit worse, that is not an accident. Like, we're built in a certain way, and it's just been such a wonderful conversation.
And look, we called this podcast This Equestrian Life, right? Because we wanted to find a way of talking about horses and life in a way that felt future-proof and forward-thinking. And I really do think there is this amazing realization that is taking place, this like awakening that we are all, I hope, going through. And I think that the younger generations are going to have a harder time than we are, because we grew up without social media. We did. We didn't have Facebook until we were like 16, right? Really? Like,
100%.
That we were grown up to a degree before it took place. And I feel like there are so many people now at our age, like Rhea and I'm 34, Rhea, you're slightly younger than me, aren't you? That we're like realising, like, wait a minute, I'm not going to spend my life staring at a phone, staring at a screen. You can, in a small way, re-find that essence of what we loved about our life, whether it be with horses or not. And I'm glad that we're having this conversation, and I really hope, if nothing else, that this conversation will inspire people to just do one small thing. It doesn't, like you were saying, you know, you don't have to go for a month to Patagonia and wild camp. You can just go and do a small thing, go for a walk, touch some grass. You know, they literally say that, don't they? Like, if you're getting a bit out of touch with life, just go touch some grass, hug a tree. If you've never done it, I highly recommend it. You know, I was talking to someone, who was I talking to literally today? One of my lovely clients, and she said that work had been awful this week and she was really struggling. And I told her she said, I'm going to go outside. And I said, and go barefoot. And I said, give back the energy to the earth, because I promise you she can take it. And she was like, oh my God, thank you. Because it's like this, we get all of this surging, this energy put into our lives, this kind of this stuff, this guff, all of this stuff. And we can just go and give it back. Just give it back. Just let it go. I think that's really, really powerful. Claire, I have a question. And to round off, and maybe this will be a help to summarize this conversation potentially. But I have a question that I ask every guest, and I'm no doubt your answer is going to be pretty profound. But if you had one thing, if you had one thing that you could say to every equestrian, and let's just put it out there to every person, let's change it a bit today. Let's round out season 5. What would be that one thing that you would say to everybody?
Oh God, no pressure then.
Take your time.
I think, I don't know, it would be to get outside more. It's so cliched, but it is, I think, in whatever way that you really love is make time for that, really. And I think it's really easy to just get your head stuck into all the things you've got to do, but like to take some time to, you know, go for a walk, go for a run, jump in some water, you know, go down to the beach, wherever you live or whatever you are doing. And if you can do that with your horse, all the better, because they'll love it too, I think. And I think just kind of, and you can be a much better horse owner if you're in a good place, and, you know, taking that time to take some deep breaths in somewhere that, you know, you feel relaxed. And I think it will then comes out so much with the animals around you, whether they're human or more than human, you know. It's definitely. And also I think if you're really keen to get out and do stuff outdoors with your horse, I keep saying this to people, but set a date when you're going to go and do a thing that is like your next step towards that. And I think if you're, you know, there's a saying, isn't there? Another great saying, which is, an idea without a date is just a dream. And I think if you really want to do something and make that space, and set a time and a date, you know, a day where you're like, on that day, I'm going to go and hack out in the woods and take my horse box, or hack out to this nice spot, and just let you and your horse off the hook and go and enjoy it. But make a date for that.
I love that. Thank you so much, Claire. Gosh, what an emotional
No worries. Sorry about making you both cry.
No, it's great. Probably needed it, to be honest.
No, it's good to cry anyway.
I was like, as soon as you started talking, I was like, oh, I'm in trouble. I'm really in trouble here.
Really?
And then,
God.
Yeah, I think it makes you reflect, doesn't it, about your own relationship with nature and your own childhood, and the things you used to do with, because your childhood sounds quite similar to mine, like lone horses and wandering about, and, you know, even on foot. I grew up on a farm. I was really lucky. My dad was a shepherd for a family. And I used to just wander out in the woods on my own for like hours. I would just love it. And you forget that stuff. You're like, that didn't come from nowhere. That was an innate thing that you did. Yeah, absolutely. And those smells, those feelings, like, I think that's why I love working in a garden, actually, is because you know, you're just amongst all that stuff, but you actually kind of get paid for it. But it's really, it's like being a kid a bit at work. I think it's really nice. But it's all there, isn't it? It is.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Claire, for joining us today. It's been an absolute honour. And we will see you guys for season 6 of the podcast. Thank you so much for listening. It has been an absolute honour to share these stories with you this season, and we'll see you for next time. Bye for now.
Bye.